Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason and I am your watch guy today. First of all, Merry Christmas to all of you. If you are watching this on Christmas Day, that's when it's going out. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and I hope you have an absolute fantastic day. Now that's out of the way, today I am going to be reviewing one of my favourite watches in my collection. And it's not because it's one of the most expensive, but it's more to do with its historical background. And that is something that if you've watched this channel before, you know really does entertain me in watches. First of all, I'd like to start with a little bit of a story time. Now, in 1944, Christmas Eve, during World War II, there were 3 American soldiers lost in German woods. It's snowing, they can't find their way back to American lines, and they come across a cabin in the woods. Now, the inhabitants of this cabin were Elizabeth and her son, Fritz. They were waiting for the father of the family to come home for Christmas dinner. Unfortunately, he couldn't get there, so they put that off. Now, the American soldiers, obviously, they're armed and could take over this cabin and just, take what's in there. But instead, they knock on the door very politely. They've dragged one of their friends through the snow. He's injured. Elizabeth answers the door to these 3 American soldiers, one of them on the floor, obviously wounded, and 2 asking for help. So they're brought inside. She invites them in, which alone is a massive risk to her and a child. The actual penalty for harbouring enemy soldiers in World War II was execution. So she was risking her life for these 3 men who obviously needed help. And that alone is a Christmas story, isn't it? So she invites them inside. She gets Fritz to go and get 6 potatoes and Herman, the bird that they were planning to cook for Christmas dinner. Now, Herman was named after Hermann Goering, the Nazi leader of the Luftwaffe. Now, he was a fierce fighter pilot who impressed Hitler, and that's why he was the leader of the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe were the German Air Force who absolutely decimated countries during World War II. They were one of the Nazis' biggest forces during the World War. So we have Elizabeth, who can't speak English, and 3 American soldiers who can't speak German. As the story goes, they communicated in broken French, which is crazy when you think of it. I can just about communicate with people in broken English. So Elizabeth starts preparing dinner for the soldiers and herself and Fritz, during which there is a knock on the door. Fritz answers the door and he is greeted by 4 German soldiers. They're also in the woods looking for shelter at the time. Obviously, Elizabeth, alarmed, ushers Fritz out of the way and starts to communicate with the German soldiers. The soldiers ask to be invited inside for shelter and food. Obviously, they would be greeted by 3 American soldiers if they did. So Elizabeth says to them, "You are very welcome to come inside. You can eat until the food is gone and get warmth. But there are 3 people inside you may not consider to be friends." So the German corporal asks Elizabeth, "Are you telling me there are Americans inside the cabin?" And she says yes. Now obviously you can imagine how scary that is for Elizabeth at the time, as well as the American soldiers. The corporal replies to Elizabeth, "On this holy night, there will be no shooting." So she invites them inside the cabin, but first insists that they down arms and leave their guns outside. Also insisting that the Americans do the same. So they do. And you can imagine the tense atmosphere that is inside this tiny cabin in the woods. But eventually they start to warm to each other. The German soldiers take out wine and bread that they have brought with them and share it. They also have a medic with them who is kind enough to treat the American soldier that is wounded. Due to the cold, he hadn't gotten an infection, although he had lost a lot of blood. The medic insisted that he needed rest, food and warmth. Elizabeth served all the soldiers with their dinner. They all sat, ate, drank and chatted until the morning. Now in the morning, the Americans asked the Germans which way it was to their lines. So the German soldiers pointed them to it on the map and handed over a compass for them to track their way back. So they parted ways. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that 2 of the German soldiers were only 16. The corporal was only 23. I'm 27. Imagine the type of person that it takes to do something like that at that age. And imagine what it takes to do something that actually could get you killed at that age. If the Germans went back to their leaders and said, yeah, we let 3 Americans get away, and yeah, we didn't arrest this woman who'd harboured them, like, they'd be executed. Now, Herman goes and sets up a bakery in America, to still telling this story, and tries to reach out to these soldiers, tries to find them many years later, obviously wanting to talk to them about the story that took place on that Christmas Eve. And he did so in 1996. He found one of them that was still telling that story, that was actually telling the same story in a nursing home for many years. And in 1996, they both met up. The soldier himself actually still had the compass. And he said to Fritz, "Thank you. Your mother saved my life that night." I'm actually getting like little tingles telling that story, because wow, the type of minerals that it takes to be that person. So you may think that that is a completely irrelevant story, but actually Fritz and his mother were only in that cabin because their home had been bombed. Their home was Aachen in Germany, which is actually really suiting because today I am reviewing the Laco Aachen 42mm. So guys, let me turn this camera around and let's get into this review. So this is the Laco Aachen 42mm. It's a flieger style watch, and if you wanted to pick this up, you could pick it up on Laco's website for €340. That comes in around £305. Elsewhere, different dealers, you can pick it up about £299. Personally, I just go on the Laco website. Yeah, get it from the source. So Laco have been producing watches very proudly in Germany since 1925. They started out putting Swiss movements into German-made cases. They started life as Larcher & Co. and then shortened it to Laco, so that's where the name comes from. They were one of the 5 watchmakers to provide pilot watches to the Luftwaffe in World War II. Obviously, they were Hermann Goering's fighter pilots, or the Nazis' Air Force in World War II. They made watches for them alongside companies like IWC and Lange & Son. So, you know, in good company, really. These watches were known primarily for their precision and build quality. So they definitely got themselves a reputation for quality, as do a lot of German watchmaking companies. So let's get into the dimensions of this watch. It is 42mm in diameter. It is 12mm thick. Lug to lug, it is 49.7mm long, and that is just within my wearable range. I usually stay within the 50mm range. These lugs are 20mm, which would make it very easy for you to swap this strap out. However, I don't know why you would, because this is absolutely gorgeous and fits the profile of this watch very well. So this Laco in particular is packed with a Miyota 821A movement. Now that is a hacking and hand winding movement, 21 joules. Very reliable, to be fair to them, and cuts the costs down a lot, which is why they can offer such a watch for such a low price. You need to consider IWC are offering watches £4,000 plus. Lange & Son, I don't even know, but I know it's expensive. Heritage gets a very high price tag these days, so it's nice to see that you can still pick up that type of heritage for a really budget type of price. Now, Aachen is a city in Germany that was taken by the Americans in the war. It is built in 316L stainless steel, and it has a matte sort of finish to it, as you can see there. I wouldn't say it's brushing. I would definitely say it's a matte finish, and that is exactly how they name it on their website. Very nice curvature to the casing, but very simple, and plays into the watch's features, which is obviously that dial and its simplicity, I'd say. Now, as we move to the back of the watch, you can see that this is a display case back. However, it is not a screw down case back. If you just look there, you can see the little lip there for you to clip the case off. This is a press down case. Now, it does show off this Miyota 821A movement. that is very nicely decorated by Laco. As you can see, the rotor is a Laco rotor with Laco watches made in Germany inscribed on it. Very nice to see them put their own rotor on there, and very nice to see them leave their own mark on this watch. Obviously very proud of their brand, and they definitely should be. A little bit of information around the actual caseback itself, as you would usually expect. Now over to the right here, we have a very large, very pronounced crown, and it is sort of a half onion style crown with really nice detail on it, almost antique, very easy to grip, and it is a pull-out straight crown. As I did mention, hand winding also, hacking movement, as you can see there. Covering this dial, we have a simple flat piece of sapphire crystal. Now this casing together provides this watch with a 50-meter water resistance, which is probably the type of thing that you would expect from this style of watch. It's not something that you're going to get wet. It is a pilot's watch, not a diver's watch. So I'll let them off with that small water resistance rating. Now, as we focus into the dial of this watch, you can see it is a Type B classic flieger style watch, which Laco are obviously known for from their heritage. It is fully printed onto a flat black dial. We have large and bold Arabic numerals for the minute markings on the outer edge of the dial. As you can see, 5, 10, 15, so on, so on. And then we have a very pronounced, very bold minute track on the outer edge of the dial. Very legible, very easy to read, and that is exactly what these watches were built to be. At the 12 o'clock, you can see that we have this classic pilot style arrow tip, which you would see on plenty of flieger and pilot watches, which is a really nice feature. I really do enjoy them. As you can see on the inner dial, we have smaller Arabic numerals for the hour markings. Again, very legible. And just on the inside there, at 12 o'clock, we have the Laco logo. Simple but effective dial. Some would probably say that there's a lot going on here, but when you really think about it, it is very simple. Down at the 6 o'clock here, either side of the indice, you can see Made in Germany, which is a very proud tag. Obviously, German watchmaking is up there with some of the best, including their neighbours over there in Switzerland. Now, the indice and numeral markings on this dial are all printed in C3 Super Luminova. I will show you that Lume shot in a second. It is one of my favourites, I'll tell you that much. The Lume print gives a really antique type of look, an almost aged type of look to the markings. As we move into this handset, we have some really bold sword hands with black borders on them. Now these hands are loomed again in C3 Super Luminova. Bold, easy to see. The hour hand is almost shortened into a diamond type of shape, so it will fit inside this inner circle, which is a very nice effect. As well as that, we have this minute hand which reaches straight out onto the minute track itself, and a needle second hand with a black paddle counterbalance on it. Now let me just insert the Lume shot for you just here. As I say, this is one of my favourite Lume shots. Not because it's the brightest Lume in the world, not because it's the longest lasting Lume in the world, but because of the Lume signature. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. I love how all the numerals are loomed, so you can see every marking. Functional as well as very decorative. Now as we move on to the strap that this Laco is supplied with, you can see that it is a brown calf leather strap with really nice stitching on it and rivets on both strap ends. As you can see, this is really nice, really decorative, especially with that stitching. This is a pilot style strap, and they've matched it very well to this Laco flieger. I think it completes the look of this, as well as it being a very quality strap, very comfortable on wrist. We have 2 leather keepers. We have a matte stainless steel buckle on this one with the Laco label inscribed. As you can see on the back of this strap, I'll just flip it around. We have the Laco logo over on this side, as well as handmade in Germany over here. Very nice strap, very comfortable on wrist. Speaking of which, let me get this on wrist and give you a quick wrist shot. This is the Laco Aachen 42mm on wrist. As you can see, those curved lugs really do aid to the wearability of this watch. And that strap is just so comfortable on wrist. It's a very well made strap and it's high quality, I can assure you of that. This is definitely on my upper limits of wearability, obviously with that very long lug to lug, but I'm glad I got the 42mm because it really does give me the real flieger pilot style feel to it without it being too oversized on wrist. I really do love that crown, very decorative, very nice, and fits this watch very well. Now obviously I am a massive fan of this watch, and I have said in previous videos that it will never leave my collection. This is the perfect mix of heritage and quality for me, and it comes at a perfect price, a perfectly affordable price, and I just don't see myself ever moving it on. I think this is a perfect flieger to have in your collection. I think it's a perfect flieger for me to have in my collection. But that's not to say that there aren't any moans to go with the watch. So first of all, the movement. It is not the best in the world. It's not Swiss. It's not, you know, in-house or anything like that. It's a cheap Miyota movement. Well, I say cheap, it's more expensive than the usual 8215. Obviously, it's an upgrade on the 8215. Doesn't have that horrible rotor on it. Doesn't have that really gritty type of sound to it, which I absolutely hate, which probably comes from Laco fitting their own rotor. So, yeah, well done to Laco. As well as that, this is actually a date movement. So there is a ghost date position. Would have been nice for them to fit a movement that is, you know, fit into the watch. Obviously, we don't have a date on this one. So, yeah, slight moan, but a moan all the same, something that I'd like to make you aware of. Secondly, is this strap. Now, it's not that the strap is in any way uncomfortable, any way ill-fitting. What it is, well, mainly the keeper on this strap. So, it's very light and moves very easily, and I often find myself having to fix it back into place when it comes loose. I'd have liked a tighter keeper on this one, but it's a very minor moan, and it's one that I'm very comfortable with myself. So guys, this is my only flieger in my collection, and there's a reason for that. I think it is the perfect affordable flieger. £299, £305 if you get it from Laco. I just don't think there's any better affordable fliegers out there. I would love to know your opinion in the comments section, but obviously I just don't think there's anything that matches this heritage. When you think about it, it is a genuine flieger watch, because obviously this is made by one of the original German flieger watchmaking companies. I just don't think there's any better for the price of this. So guys, that is my Laco Aachen 42mm review. I hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely a watch that will never leave my collection, and for very good reason. If you'd like to pick one of them up, Laco's website is in the description. Hopefully I remember to put that in there. I also hope you all enjoyed the story at the beginning. Definitely something we can all learn from that one, especially while the world's going through such a hard time at the minute. It just goes to show that we have gotten through hard times in the past with a lot of humanity. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Thank you for supporting the channel over the last 9 months. I didn't think we'd ever get here, but you know, you've made a very happy watch guy this Christmas. I hope to see you after the holidays. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.